All right, we are all set.
Okay.
Still people coming in.
Yeah, we have about a minute, or I'm not sure, but it says 11:59 on my clock.
Yeah, yep. I'm going to keep entering. I'll be monitoring the waiting room for everybody.
Good. Are you going to do like the main welcome and I introduce the speakers?
Yeah, sure.
Is that how you're going to do it? Okay.
Yeah, let's do it. Are you going to record this, by the way?
It's already recording.
Oh my God. We edit out some of that stuff. It's a good thing I didn't start with my usual repartee then. Okay.
All right, it's 12 o'clock, Erin. Shall we go?
Sounds good. Yeah. So thank you, everyone, for joining us. We're happy to have you today for our first SUNY Online Teaching webinar series of the fall semester. On the slide, you'll see our lineup for the remaining months to take us through the rest of this year. And I'm going to be posting the link to that in the chat for you to be able to register, but also that's where our recordings will be posted. So you can go back there at any time and view any session that you may have missed or that you would like to revisit. So at this point, the administrative things out of the way, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Alexandra Pickett, to introduce our speakers and talk about our topics.
Hi, everyone. I'm Alexandra Pickett. I am the Director of Online Teaching at SUNY Online, and it's so nice to see so many people here for our first, as Erin mentioned, our first SUNY Online Teaching webinar of the fall term. Today, if you are interested in optimizing AI for teaching and learning, then you're in the right place because today our speakers are going to be addressing that topic, and we have with us today Jeffrey Ryman, who's an assistant professor and an instructional designer and the coordinator of the Center for Excellence in Teaching at the SUNY Fashion Institute of Technology. And with him today is also Dr. Billy Francini, who is the director of the Center for Advancement of Teaching and Learning and Online Education at the University at Albany. Jeffrey and Billy are here today as the co-chairs of the SUNY Provost's Fact2 Task Group on Artificial Intelligence. And with them today is Stephanie Pritchard, who is a visiting assistant professor in the Department of English and Creative Writing at the State University of New York College at Oswego. And she's also the coordinator for Writing and Ethical Practice and the assistant director for Writing Across the Curriculum, and also facilitates a Writing Fellows program. Stephanie is the co-lead of the pedagogy subgroup, which I'm a member of, in that AI Fact2 task group. And she co-leads that subcommittee with Dr. Keith Landa from SUNY Purchase. So I am so happy that they were available to come and chat with us today on this topic. And Jeffrey, I'm going to turn it over to you. Thanks so much, everyone, for being here.
Thank you very much, Alex. And it's good to see so many familiar names and also new names. I want to start by just before I go into the whole spiel, is that I think that AI presents a unique challenge. You're going to have to excuse these beeps going on outside. There's a building near me that has an alarm going off. It's not my pacemaker or something like that. So AI presents a particularly unique challenge in the world of online learning. And so I want to take this opportunity to invite people from SUNY Online who may want to participate in future efforts to contact me via the email I just put in the chat. Although we have 50 members already, we are definitely interested in incorporating online challenges, especially in fully asynchronous settings, into our future work. Also, I want to just welcome. I believe it's just Stephanie and Billy and I. If there's anybody else who is from our task group, feel free to open the mic and jump in at any time. And we would welcome you. So, all right, so I'm going to share screen and then we're going to have plenty of time
for questions. Stephanie and Billy, I could throw it to you at any time. You know, in school, we call that a cold call. So I would appreciate you guys just being ready to help save me if I get myself into treacherous waters. So let's make sure we can share. Yeah, good. Okay, so you just give me a thumbs up that you can see what you need to see, and we're all set to go. Okay, so the this is extracted from a presentation. Oh, hi, Lynn. I see you're here too. Good. This is extracted from a presentation that was given to the provost a few weeks ago. We've updated it just to kind of give you a status. Let me begin by saying we are minutes away from submitting our first report to the Fact2 Council in the hands of Judith Littlejohn, and which will then be reviewed by the council and by the provost's office, and then we will get it back with hopefully not too many changes, and then it will be released to the greater SUNY community. The target of this document is all faculty, all instructional support teams, and all instructional designers for those who differentiate between the two. And for, of course, anybody in administrative roles or so on. I want to just continue here by clicking on the right screen. So we were charged on May 24th. And since May 24th to this very day today, we have generated a document that's about 50 pages long that has 3 distinct perspectives aggregated and organized within it. And we're anxious for everybody to see it. I just want to acknowledge Dana is here too, Dana Gavin. She combed this over and over again for us as well. Let me just go back for a second. Our charge, and I'm just going to paraphrase, is to describe AI capabilities and that are widely available and can be leveraged by faculty and students. We want a set of use cases. We have use case examples, but we're looking for much more for the next iteration of our reports. Many faculty were kind enough, including members of our task group, to share their own practice in this document. Preliminary assessment of the functions and uses of AI sites that are available at that point. I think you would all agree from the minute I started speaking until now, that has changed because it's just rolling out at a remarkable rate. But I believe that the changes in AI since we began this work 4 months ago actually is unaffected by the content of the document. Maybe some of the examples could be improved upon and so on. But we have an initial summary of ethical pros and cons, an initial set of findings related to AI usage and copyright. I think everybody in our test group would agree that we can do more in every single one of these areas, but to generate the content that's been generated at the time, the urgency is there's a lot of people who have very different kinds of anxieties about AI, how it's going to impact academia, how AI is going to affect student authorship, faculty authorship, as well as learning, plagiarism, stealing, cribbing, and so on. But we believe, I think I'm speaking for the group, and Billy and Stephanie and anybody else wants to chime in, there's a lot of affirmative ways that AI actually can enhance education. And so instead of treating it like it's the evil side or the dark star, I think we need to treat it like it's a fait accompli. It's already here, and students are using it at remarkable rates. And so we can harness that energy by involving the students in the process. Just quickly as a digression, I did a workshop with my class. I teach a research and development methods class at the New School, and we had students working together in small groups using prompts to develop their research ideas and their interview questions. And they've all been trained in proper citation. We like the MLA style, and we will have those resources in our document as well. My students were somewhat surprised that I actually integrated it into a teaching and learning experience. But in doing so, we discovered, and I mean my students and myself, we discovered it's hard. No matter how good your prompt is, it's an iterative process. And by learning together, we're sharing a collective awareness about what this means. Moving right along. Billy, get ready to open your mic at any moment. So we organized the task group in a simple way. We have over 50 members right now, representing 11 SUNY campuses, SUNY Online, SUNY Admin, and we also have people who joined us by reaching out to us from Southwestern University, LA Tech, University of Louisiana System, Northwestern, and University of New Orleans. We would welcome any other institution to join us at any time, because everybody is dealing with this, and each in their own unique way, it enriches us. So we still have people coming in, I see. What we did was at the very outset, we knew we were going to make a document, and we created task group subcommittees, and we charged the subcommittees in a fashion that would divide and conquer some of the tasks we have. The document is being compiled, and as I mentioned, its release is imminent. And actually, Alex, I'm amazed to say, on schedule. So how that happened is remarkable. So here are some of the highlights. Okay, during the summer, we did our work, and we also have a website that's under development. Our website is not ready because, quite frankly, I think we need to have the endorsement of the Faculty Council and the Provost Office before we start providing perspective and information in a way that we want to have be congruent with what SUNY is doing, because SUNY is also, from the Provost to the Chancellor, opening up a task force that is looking at policy and all the intricacies of integration using perspectives from education, industry, and so on. We will be a complement to that group, and we're very honored to be included in some fashion in that process. So right now, here we are, document release and continued inquiry. This document's going to continue to grow. And we're talking about, and actually we're going to open up the mic to everybody to get people to register feedback, concerns, suggestions as well. But we discussed having a charrette-style symposium, and charrettes are used in design where they'll just grab a bunch of creative people and throw them in a room with 10,000 Legos or 400,000 toothpicks and say, build something. And what we would like to do is have a collaborative, highly active symposium, which is really designed for everybody to work together in a hands-on fashion to explore prompts, applications, and pedagogies, rather than just slideshows and Kentucky windage like you're hearing from me now. It's much better for us to all be active. That was not a political statement, by the way. Anyway, Lynn, I see you're here. Do you mind spontaneously just chatting about the definitions subcommittee? I know Megan's not here today, but one of the task group subcommittees was co-chaired by Lynn Aaron from SUNY Rockland Community College and Megan Frevold from Alfred. University, and Lynn is here. So I'm just going to toss it to you and just talk a little bit about the process and maybe some of the challenges.
Sure. Well, folks, you're looking at the task that was set before us, and as you can see, it's substantial. Excuse me. The ethical legal area was particularly challenging. We had lots of information of all kinds, pros and cons, and I hope you'll take a look at it in the document. For the definitions part, we compiled a glossary of some of those terms that you're hearing more and more. But it, just so that you guys know, it's an it's an adaptive glossary. We welcome your suggestions. As Jeffrey said, the field is changing constantly. So we welcome your suggestions for additions to the glossary. I hope you'll take a look at it. It's at the end of the document when you get to see it. Pros and cons, as Jeffrey kind of alluded to, we had them. There's much good to be said, but there are many concerns. And the group had a lot of fun looking into those. Well, that capabilities that is broad and, as he said, ever changing. Anybody have any questions about that? I'd be happy to address them.
Throw them in the chat if you like, and then I'll sort of monitor. Wow. No questions yet anyway, Lynn. Lynn, you might want to talk about some of the discussion that happened within your group about these concerns. There were some people who are really looking to take a more structured, constraining kind of approach towards what AI is, and others who were looking to open it up more. Did you guys have challenges kind of resolving those points of view?
I think, I think as the conversation went on, sorry, that's mine. I think as the conversation went on, we each began to see both points of view, right? I think as we started, there was a lot of concern, and there still is, about the academic integrity component here. I know that I was kind of, and still am, kind of, how am I going to handle that part of it with my courses? I'm sorry, I'm getting an important call at the moment, but
Okay.
let me rush this. But then again, there were folks who saw all the promise of it, and so as the conversations went on, we began to kind of see both points. We started out saying, "Oh no, what's happening to us?" And we ended up saying, there's promise here. We can help our students in this way and that way.
Thank you, Lynn. So, these were some of the ethical concerns that we addressed. Lynn, if you're not, is that call gone, or you want to just talk?
I'm going to go back to it now. I'm sorry.
How will our use of, I'll jump in when you're ready, Lynn, if you can. How will our use of AI as instructors impact our students' learning? The more faculty I work with on AI, and I've heard this from other task group members, the more we realize how valuable it is to us in so many ways. As long as you're really thinking through your sourcing and treating it responsibly, just like we want our students to. And many of us have to reflect on our own teaching practice and the way we do things too, to reflect the best standard we can possibly represent. Part of that is in transparency of how you do things. I'll just say, working at a school with visual communications, there are many professors who pick images and put them into their presentations and don't properly credit them, who make quotations and don't cite them properly. So now that we're going into a world where that information and context is even more flexible and accessible, we really need to make sure that we're setting the example for the standards that we're asking everybody else to aspire to. Just meant in a constructive tone. Will students continue to come to us with all the prerequisite skills that we've been accustomed to, especially considering the use of AI in high schools? I would just turn that question around as a question of also this is related to an assessment problem, grade inflation, students moving ahead who don't necessarily tag up and validate, all the skills they need. So I think we just need to be more vigilant, but we do explore this. And we do touch on intellectual property rights. There's a lot more to do in that regard. But I will say that the AI products are also, are also beginning to respond by providing better sourcing, for where everything is coming from. It's a growing field. And how will faculty incorporate AI literacy into their curricula? That's one of the reasons why we want to have a charrette-style symposium for people to explore that and to use the products that we publish to also help them to add context to that. Before I move on, Lynn, I see you're back. Did I miss anything?
I didn't hear most of what you said. Sorry, but I did want to mention one thing that
Sure.
Maybe an overhanging consideration, and that is the issue of critical thinking. So there's considerable concern that AI will end up doing our critical thinking for us, that students will go to AI and get the answers and not have thought through the process. And on the other hand, there's literature showing that how we can use AI to increase our students' critical thinking. And I'm not sure how that all works out, but I know it's a concern that we need to be aware of. That's all.
Thank you. Now, Stephanie, I'm going to move on to the second task group, which was pedagogy. And this was co-chaired with Keith Landa. I think that you can probably speak to this far better than me. So please, Stephanie, welcome.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Hello, everyone. So our subcommittee really focused on AI in the classroom and, some of the challenges that AI will present, but also some of the potential benefits. So some of the things that we decided to explore were sort of like rethinking some of the assignments that we're creating and giving to our students. So for example, this semester, I teach English composition, which is often like a freshman writing class. You do get kids in there who are, sophomores and juniors, but mostly it's incoming freshmen who are required to take it. And anyway, what I decided to do this semester was redesign some of my assignments to incorporate AI. And I have yet to give some of them yet. So we're gonna kind of see how things go. I'm both excited and a little bit nervous about that. But I think if we consider our assignments and how much, the students can do on their own, but how much they can rely on some guided assistance from AI, I think that it can be a really, really valuable tool for our students to use. So there's a lot more information in the resource that we're going to share with you soon. We've also talked about the importance of transparency. So thinking about including a statement on your syllabus about how you feel about AI. So, we at this point have a lot of flexibility in how much we choose to incorporate AI into our classes. So some faculty feel as though they're not quite ready for that. So having a syllabus statement that clearly outlines that is really important so that students know what's appropriate and what's not. If you are a little bit, if you're willing to incorporate some AI into your classes, then having a syllabus statement that connects to that can also be really helpful. I'll share briefly that at the beginning of this semester, when I asked students in all of my classes to go through my syllabus and pull out things that they considered to be very important, all of them mentioned intellectual integrity, which I thought was really fascinating because in previous semesters, that's something that always kind of gets overlooked, right? They focus on things like my late policy and attendance policy and the course outline, right? But they don't ever bring up the intellectual integrity bit. So I think that our students are really thinking about this and noticing, you know, the role that AI is going to play in the, you know, as we continue to move forward. I'll also mention that in addition to statements on my syllabus, I've also started including statements on individual assignments so that my students understand, okay, for this assignment, I can incorporate AI, but I need to follow these guidelines. Here's what's okay, here's what's not okay. And I think, you know, if you are teaching a class where you are incorporating AI, having those guidelines on each assignment is a really good move, because then students, there will be no questions, right? And you can, you know, be really transparent with them about what you're looking for and what they can do. Part of the reason that I've decided to include AI in my writing classes this semester is this shift for a greater need for AI literacy as our students get ready to graduate from college. So we've spent time talking in class about, you know, the worries that some students have that their entry-level jobs, you know, might disappear, that those jobs might go to AI now. So I've spent time talking with them about how important it is to be able to use AI well and how to understand what it's capable of and what it's not capable of and what skills they will need to bring to the table when they graduate. So one of the things that I've done in my class this semester is incorporated AI in a way so that they can start to understand how to use it, so they know what's good about it and what isn't. And using those sorts of AI tools as part of the daily instruction that we do, you know, use it for brainstorming, use it for, you know, for other things. Jeffrey, would you mind skipping to the next slide?
It actually, we remember we truncated.
That's right. Yep. Thank you.
You know, I just, well, you know, we were trying to just keep the essence because there's so much, you know, to tell. And, you know, Alex, you were in pedagogy. You know, it might be interesting to hear some of your takeaways also. We were so lucky to have you be able to make time for us.
Yeah, I was thrilled to be able to participate as part of that subcommittee. Of course, my perspective is fully online, primarily fully online, and other technology enhanced modalities blended and so forth. And so I feel like that was the lens with which I was looking at in this pedagogy subcommittee. And so, but of course, many of the things that Stephanie described her doing in her face-to-face instruction would also be applicable in the online environment. For example, syllabus statements are things that I think are now you know, really important to address for that transparency that Stephanie mentioned, and then making things clear in each of the assignments. So you do that in your online instruction as well. And so, yeah, I mean, it was you know, whirlwind of activity over the last 4 months in all of our subgroups and in the larger committee. And, you know, I'm looking forward to seeing the full report.
Me too. So Billy Francini is my co-chair. Frankly, I feel like we're partners in this thing in a way that goes beyond just making sure tasks are done. Philosophically, we've had a lot of great discussions about how to make things work, and her perspective is definitely part of the DNA of what you've been seeing. Billy, do you want to talk about the tools group for a minute?
Sure. So,
I think I lost it. There we go.
You got in a hurry. So just quickly, I don't think Jamie or Shamika are here. Just give them a minute to speak up if they are. I didn't see them on the list. Okay, good. I just don't want to misrepresent anything. We did have co-chairs for that subcommittee, Jamie Herron and Shamika Mitchell. And I think in some ways, this is one of the big challenges in terms of the areas that we're focusing on, because we know this is where the rapid change that Jeffrey was talking about earlier is really happening, right? So part of what this group did was spend some time looking at existing AI tool repositories, and kind of seeing which of these tools are appropriate and for teaching and learning use, which might meet specific pedagogical needs, et cetera, et cetera. But we know that tools are growing and changing, and new tools are coming along at a very fast pace. So I think this is one of the things that's really hard for us to keep up with in the current landscape, is just what tools are out there. And that's why I think that second bullet on the slide is incredibly important, which is they created a set of guidelines for making decisions about and evaluating AI tools before you use them for either teaching or for student use in your courses. Because I think that, just because we all know this, just because a tool exists doesn't mean you should use it, right? Just because you can use a tool or technology, that doesn't necessarily mean that it fits your goals. So I think one of the really helpful things that exists in the document we are finalizing from the Tools Committee is this set of guidelines to help faculty really think through making a decision about whether to use a specific tool in their course or whether to recommend a specific tool to their students. One of the things, or a list of the things that the Tools Committee kept in mind in making this type of evaluation is what's in that sub-bullet there. So diversity, equity, and inclusion, accessibility, cost, which is a big issue, security and privacy, we know is a big issue. And so they've taken all of those into account in thinking about how we do make decisions about the tools that we do or don't use for our teaching and how we integrate them into our courses.
Exactly. Stick with me. So Billy, you want to take this one, and maybe I'll hum along here or there.
Sure. Yeah. So, the task that we had for the summer was really preparing this document that we're going to be sharing with Fact2 hopefully today. But looking forward, we have a different set of tasks ahead of us as we think about developing the symposium, as we think about continuing to update that document. So we are kind of thinking about how we're going to restructure the group to make sure that we're focusing on what's ahead of us. Some of the areas of focus that we've identified so far, faculty training and access. We know that this is a big issue because there's an issue of equity there, right? If you're using a free tool, that's not the same thing as a tool that you pay for. And so that's a question, an issue that we've got to address as a system. Continuing to think about assessment strategies. And this is something that Stephanie started to address with pedagogy. I think it's on the minds of all of our faculty, and it's something we have to keep addressing. Online learning challenges and opportunities. I think along the same line, that's partially about assessment. It's partially about evaluating tools and making decisions about what works in a particular course or a particular platform. We'd also like to expand our focus and really make sure that we're collaborating with Faculty Senate, with Student Senate, that we're involving stakeholders in conversations moving forward. Jeffrey, I'll toss it to you now. You may have other things you want to say about these issues.
I think I'll just add that as a member of the Fact2 Council in years past, we had student representatives who often informed us that we were completely off base. We tend to have these meetings amongst people who are working with students directly or administrating or planning or writing curriculum. However, a lot of times the student's perspective not only was really exciting and interesting to get, but it also was contradictory to some of the things that we presumed were working well. And not only that, but in a lot of cases, they opted for simplicity over complexity in terms of the ways that we would go about doing certain things. So it's really almost like a form of market research to include the students in there, even though it's not a It's not a business in that regard, but to get the user feedback is really important. So we're hoping that we can coalesce some interactions and even invite them to our symposium. I just think that will enrich everybody's experiences. I don't even remember if there's another slide, so let's take a look. Oh, thank you. Now, I do want, before anybody jumps in, I just want to show an example of something that I think you might find interesting. And I'm actually showing it from a course I teach at Parsons, as opposed to something I've done with faculty over at FIT. So I'm teaching a course which is based on research and development from an ethnographic approach. There's a lot of human-to-human research that's done there. And we're using future fiction as a way of designing for the future. So just not to waste too much time on this, because I want to allow time for talk. So the idea would be that most of the time when we design solutions, it's based on what's happening today, not what's happening in 20 years or 10 years from now. So we decided that we were going to frame a future based on some of the things we know about our environment, climate change, access to resources, technology, and so on. And so the students and I wrote prompts together to help them explore their topics. And I'm going to show you how it worked for us. But some prompt examples are, write a story about how a family in 2033 adapts their diet to reduce their impact on the climate. Or write a story about how climate change will affect New York City's Greenwich Village or West Village in 2033, and how the community is adapting. A lot of our research is done using the neighborhood that the school sits in, so students can walk around and look at the areas impacted by their future fiction. So, and then they were invited to take these prompts and build from them with their own particular unique point of view. So if I copy one of the products that I don't hear enough people talking about is perplexity. And it's something that we at the in the group have found to be a very good resource because it also does something that not all the AIs do as easily. So I'm going to put the prompt in and let her rip. And you'll see that the first thing that appears at the top of the screen are the sources. And that's one of the things that we're looking for. And we actually met with the librarian while we did this project, because the librarian wanted to actually verify and validate, where these sources are coming from. And also to use, let me just blow this up a little bit, just to use these sources as a way of using the library to go even deeper into those topics from the points of view that are in current writing, in journals, publications, and news. So this really worked out well. And you'll see here that the answers, investing in resilient infrastructure, promoting sustainable transportation, enhancing emergency preparedness and response, collaborating with local communities. These sound like logical things, but when you go into the descriptions, they actually give some examples of context. Now, for a student researcher, this is not doing their research for them, but it is providing them some guidance as to possible avenues of inquiry. And so they are required to cite everything they get, no matter where it's from, and they have ample resources to do that. We're using a tool called RefWorks. It's not unlike Zotero, but I think it's a little bit more robust. And so I just wanted to share with you an example. So a student would take that prompt and then rewrite it to drill even deeper. Okay, and yeah, so somebody just wrote in the chat, they asked ChatGPT to answer the prompt about what sources it used, and it refused. I'm just curious, Nicholas, did it say I refuse, or it just gave you nothing? You could just put your answer in the chat if you like. So you could just take this prompt and go right back. And now it offers related ideas as well, but I could just take that prompt and I can just change that for New York higher ed, New York's higher ed systems. It's not syntactically correct, but I think Stephanie will get away with it. So, and it talks about, so you see that right away, just by changing one aspect of the prompt, you get a different dimension of responses. Students also tried taking the same prompts and using them on 3 different tools. The tools we used were Bard, Claude, and Perplexity. And we find that, and by the way, I think Google is actually, I'm not used to saying good things about Google, but I think they're doing a really good job working on their databases and trying to scrub them. Before I conclude and open it up to everybody or anybody who has comments, I just want to, I just want to add that we really need to have an open mind about this. And if anything, put more scrutiny on the producers of these products, but something to consider that people may want to even comment on the chat, and I'm going to grab the chat in a minute and take a look, is how can SUNY provide faculty and students and staff access to the most current AI tools so that we're all working with the relative state of the art. I believe if you're using the free ChatGPT, you're at a full level below what the premium is. And now we're seeing pricing on almost everything. And so we don't want to create disadvantages where students who don't have the money are using entry-level quality products for their higher education, while other students are able to afford to pay whatever it is to get more current versions. It's similar to the issue of students who cannot afford technology, that others have distinct advantages by having faster computers with more complex options available to them. So I think that that's important. Billy, anything you want to add to that? I just thought it would be nice to share something a little spontaneously. I hope you found it interesting.
No, I think we're ready to open up for questions and comments at this point.
Okay, great. I'm gonna go back on the chat to I think, so Alexandra put another resource in there, connected papers. Alex, have you tried that? Does it
Yeah. And somebody else, I think it was Jennifer, put something in there called Research Rabbit. There, it looks like it's similar. I just found this the other day and was blown away by it. I'm in the middle of working on my dissertation, so I thought it was just very, very interesting and cool. But yeah, there's a number of sort of productivity and research related tools out there. And as you said, I mean, they're changing all the time. There's different pricing models for them. And I know the tools group did a lot of work in gathering that information and putting together their suggestions and recommendations on tools in the report.
I also want to give a shout out to what Stephanie mentioned in the chat, which is T for Teaching. Many of you don't know that our dear colleague, John Kane, who is one of the hardest working people in the show business of education, actually produces a podcast with one of his colleagues at Oswego. The more recent episode on 80 ways to use ChatGPT is an interview with Stan Scarbutt, who is the author of this book. But he's not just an author, he is a prolific practitioner in this area. And even for me, I was getting a little itchy about maybe some of the liberal ways he was approaching that. But I do feel that that's exactly the kind of challenges we need, right? Is not just the safe way, but it's people who do anyway. Let's see. I'd like to see, oh, thank you. Yeah, it's Rebecca Mushter. And she is a visual artist, a visual designer. So having somebody who's an economist with a designer is a great yin yang for the hosting of this. And T for Teaching is a gem that you should definitely go back and review if you can. Alex, I want to open it up for anybody else who has questions. And I think that's great if they open up the mic and we can actually hear their voices. Questions, comments?
Yeah, I have one. In the report, are you comparing the different platforms and doing any rating on them or recommendations? Or are you kind of avoiding the product part of it?
I think that's a good question. Billy, were you going to jump in on that, or you going to let me sweat it out?
I think that in the tools section, they've really pointed more to repositories of existing tools than to specific tools. Although Jeffrey, you may remember different parts of the report than I do. But I think part of our concern was that the tools are going to change and are going to shift very quickly. So part of what we were thinking in terms of is pointing either to aggregators, but also pointing to what are the questions that can drive a good evaluation of a specific tool.
Thank you.
Yeah, and the endorsement, I mean, it's really early days for endorsement. The only thing that I'm endorsing personally are tools that tell you where they got the information. And blind faith has never been a very good thing in the area of research and pedagogy, right? So if ChatGPT doesn't want to tell you, then I don't really want to hear from ChatGPT until they do tell us. Just like you wouldn't want to read an academic work that has no footnote citations or bibliography. So I think that we can also take a stand, on that. Other comments? Anybody please just open up the mic. 2 participants have raised their hands. Alex, can you see who they are?
Yeah. Jason, you're first on my screen. You want to unmute and
Sure. So hi everybody. My name is Jason Horton. I'm from SUNY Upstate Medical in Syracuse, and so I'm really excited to see that this is going on. I'm chairing a task force for our campus on the use of AI in various domains of our campus. We're a medical school as well as a graduate school in health professions. So we have a lot of different moving parts. And we're at the point now, we followed a similar timeline, and I'm glad to see that, a lot of the committees and subcommittees were organized similarly to ours. I feel really, really happy about that we're kind of arriving at the same sort of structure. But my biggest question is when do you anticipate the Fact 2 report? I think you said early on within minutes. I guess, we're at the point where we're trying to figure out how our policies are going to align, with existing policies at our institution, but then also trying to fit that in the greater SUNY structure. And so we're getting close, and we don't want to sort of trip over the finish line, if you know what I mean.
Jason, that's a great question. Yeah, I was a little dramatic about minutes, but the minutes relate to when it's going into the hands of the Fact 2 Council. and the provost's office. We've kept them apprised of what we're doing. So we're hopeful that they will read it, love it, not ask for too many changes or not have any objections, because honestly, we've been through this so many times. You can't filter it any finer. That's at least the way we feel. And then the minute that's done, I believe the provost office is going to actually do the release to the greater SUNY community. So I don't want to presume, but it's got to be within a couple of weeks, you know, at the worst. Does that sound reasonable to your calendar?
It's going to be cutting it close, but we'll see. You know, it's one of those things where we want to get it right rather than get it quick.
Jason, you're also welcome to contact Billy and I if you want to talk further, you know, about this.
That would be super.
In the chat is our contact info.
Yeah, the other thing I would add, Jason, is that what we are releasing is not a policy document. It is much more informational and I would say offers some guidance and suggestions rather than actual policy. I think policy from SUNY is going to be forthcoming probably as a result of some of the other task force work that's coming up. So I don't think you're going to find yourself bumping up against any policy recommendations in our document that would change what you're doing at your campus from policy level.
All right, great. Thank you.
Yeah, I think the chancellor's task force is actually aimed directly at policy, and I don't think I'm breaching any confidences to say that they're looking to get something out before the end of the semester, which is lightning fast. So there's a lot of, I have to say, I'm very encouraged that the leadership, you know, at the chancellor provost level is prioritizing this, because as many of you know, there's radio silence from so many major institutions about this. So I feel that they're, you know, they're being aggressive. And thank you, Jason. Like I said, you're welcome to contact Billy and or I, and we're happy to discuss offline if you feel that would be helpful.
Great, I'll be so shortly.
Thank you. Alex, there was another hand up.
Jeffrey, Naren has his hand up. Hi there, Naren.
Yeah, hello, good afternoon. This is Naren Pedibutla. I'm at the SUNY Polytechnic Institute in Utica. First, I have a question, and then which is about, did the task group involve any people who have technical experience in AI, specifically things like machine learning and large language models, which are essentially the backbone of all these tools that people have been talking about? And the reason I ask that is because in those, for example, in the glossary of terms that was shown in that document, I did not see anything about intelligence, and I did not see anything about human intelligence. And I think it's important because an excessive focus on just AI shifts the focus away from what instructors do in the classes, which all of us hopefully will agree, which is all about human intelligence, right? So the reason why I'm asking if computer scientists, for example, with any background, I'm not a computer scientist myself, but I do teach and deal with information systems management and business contexts. And their perspective would be useful because they can tell us in layman's terms, what exactly can AI tools do and not do, can do well, cannot do well. I mean, I can give examples of the kind of math problems that ChatGPT can help with and the kind of math problems that ChatGPT just cannot help with. Because that would help guide the efforts of teachers and instructors in pretty much any domain. So that's the question and comment that I have.
Naren, that's a good question. First of all, we discovered at FIT that most of the AIs we've tested don't know anything about retail math. So asking questions to it was the answers were incoherent and inappropriate. We do have members of the task group who are actually researchers in this field. And we hope to have more, which is why I'm hoping to see an email coming from you asking to participate. Nobody talks to me without getting recruited. But I think that you asked some really good questions. I don't know where that glossary came from, but whoever put it up, it didn't come from something we released that I am aware of. And remembering, as I said at the outset, the document is aimed very much at, let's call it the trajectory where most faculty are here and now. And the idea was to get something out, especially for people who haven't really given it deep thought, but they have deep fear. So we are not treating this like this document is anything other than the opening effort for something that's going to be deeper and richer in the coming months. So we would certainly welcome your participation, but I will say we have subject matter expertise. David Dorman from UB spent time with our definitions and some of our subcommittee co-chairs. Very, very helpful. And he is somebody who's one of the resources. We have others. I just can't pull those names out of my hat right now. But we do have good diversity, and we would welcome, we would definitely welcome you or anybody else who wants to reach out to us. Any other hands up? Because I can feel the sun is beginning to set on this hour.
I don't see any hands up, but if anyone has any questions.
I see one.
Robin, hi.
Yeah, hi, everybody. I just want to say it's a great experience to be part of the larger task group. And one resource that I think we will, that's I believe is mentioned in there is the SUNY MTech project. It is a curated collection of freely available tools and resources. We recently added an AI category. So although I do want to say that we're in the process of moving it to a different SUNY server. Thank you, Ed, for all of your help. Ed, back on the call. But I'm just going to put the link in the chat. And, there's a lot of great stuff. I look forward to continuing to add new resources here. That's it.
Thanks, Robin. Anyone else with any burning last minute questions?
I hope everybody found this to be useful.
Yes, thank everyone for putting this together, and we've been waiting as eager beavers to hear what you had to say. But thanks to the task force and everybody that did all the work on this.
Yes, thank you. Very helpful.
Nadine, did you have another question? Your hand, oh, you're clapping. Okay, never mind. Very good. Yeah, thanks everyone. Erin? Any closing remarks?
Yeah, thanks, Alex. Thank you, Jeffrey and Billy and everyone, Lynn, everybody for sharing today. I just wanted to put up our reminder as a closing slide for our upcoming sessions in October, November, and December. And in the chat, I've posted a link to where you can register for those sessions, but that same link is where you can find our recordings as well. So we'll post today's recording there. And hope to see you at another event soon. Thanks so much.